Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The first faint light of dawn crept through the curtains, casting a soft glow across the room. I lay awake, the weight of expectation pressing down on me like a physical burden. For years, Marla and I had tried for a child, our hopes rising and falling with the rhythm of passing months. After countless disappointments, we had finally sought medical help, and just yesterday, I had walked into the polyclinic, a bundle of nerves, to take infertility tests. I turned my head to see Marla sleeping peacefully beside me. Her face, relaxed in sleep, held traces of the stress that had shadowed us both. Today was supposed to be just another day filled with anxious waiting, but fate had other plans. Marla's alarm chirped, and she stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Without a word, she slipped out of bed and walked to the bathroom. The next moments were a blur, punctuated by a piercing scream of joy that pulled me from the tangle of sheets. I rushed to her side and found her holding a pregnancy test with 2 distinct pink stripes. "I can't believe it. Look, it's positive," she exclaimed, tears streaming down her face. We embraced, a tumult of joy and disbelief. "I knew it. I knew it would happen for us," I whispered, trying to convince myself as much as her. We spent the morning in a bubble of elation, our previous sorrows momentarily forgotten. But as the day wore on, a gnawing anxiety began to take root within me. It clung stubbornly through our celebration, through the calls to family and friends, through Marla's laughter and smiles. The next day, as I walked down the sterile, white corridor of the polyclinic to receive my test results, that seed of doubt sprouted into dread. The door to Dr. Henson's office seemed heavier than I remembered. As it shut behind me, the doctor's face told me everything I needed to know before he even spoke. "I'm sorry, but the results are conclusive. You are infertile," Dr. Henson said gently, his voice a low, sorrowful cadence. The room spun. "That can't be. We just—" "Marla is pregnant," I stammered, my voice trailing off into silence. "It's a rare case, but sometimes these things can happen due to earlier tests or—" Dr. Henson's voice faded into the background. I left his office in a daze, the world around me muffled, as if underwater. My mind raced as I drove home. How? If I couldn't father a child, then who? Was Marla seeing someone else? The joy of the morning crashed down, replaced by a cold, seething anger. I confronted Marla the moment I walked through the door. "We need to talk," I said, my voice tight with barely contained fury. Her smile faded as she looked into my eyes. "What's wrong?" The test results came back. "I'm infertile, Marla." "Explain how this is possible," I demanded, throwing the papers on the table. Confusion clouded her face. "I don't know, but there must be some mistake. I've never been with anyone else. I swear, it's just been you." Her words did little to quench the fire of betrayal burning inside me. The following weeks were a blur of accusations and denials. Without proof but unable to shake my suspicions, I let my anger guide me. Revenge became a dark, consuming thought. I cut off her access to our accounts, spread rumors about her infidelity, and finally, filed for divorce. The process was swift and brutal. In the end, Marla left, defeated and alone, her life in ruins. And I, victorious in my vengeance, was left with nothing but the echo of her protests of innocence and the haunting realization that perhaps I had destroyed the only person who had truly loved me. The rain poured relentlessly as I sat in my car outside the dimly lit coffee shop where I had agreed to meet an old friend from college, Dave, who was now a private investigator. My hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel, not from the cold, but from the gnawing mix of anticipation and dread. I had called him last night, my voice desperate, asking for help to uncover the truth about Marla. As I pushed open the door to the coffee shop, the bell chimed, cutting through the murmur of hushed conversations and the hiss of the espresso machine. Dave was already there, seated in the corner with 2 steaming cups in front of him. "Thanks for meeting me on such short notice," I said as I took the seat across from him. Dave nodded, his expression serious. "You sounded pretty shook up on the phone. What's going on?" I leaned in, lowering my voice despite the buzz of the shop. "It's Marla. She's pregnant, but I found out I can't be the father. I need to know if she's been seeing someone else." Dave's eyes narrowed slightly. "You sure you want to go down this road? What you find might not be easy to handle." "I have to know, Dave. I can't shake this feeling that she's betrayed me," I replied, the bitterness in my voice more pronounced than I intended. Dave sighed, took a sip of his coffee, and nodded. "All right, I'll look into it. Do you have any leads? Anyone you suspect?" "Just her usual circle, her coworkers, friends. I don't know, Dave, maybe I'm just losing my mind here." "Okay, I'll start with what you've given me. I'll see who she's been in contact with, check her phone records, her emails. Anything out of the ordinary, I'll find it," Dave reassured me, his tone confident. The next few days crawled by as I waited in agonizing suspense. Every ring of the phone, every notification, sent my heart racing, hoping it was Dave with some news. Finally, he called. "Meet me at the park by your house. I have something you need to see," Dave said cryptically. The park was nearly empty, the overcast sky threatening more rain. Dave was there, pacing under an oak tree, a folder in his hand. "What did you find?" I asked, barely containing my anxiety. Dave handed me the folder. "Take a look." Inside were photographs and a series of text messages between Marla and a number I didn't recognize. My heart sank as I flipped through them. The messages were ambiguous, friendly but with an undercurrent of intimacy. "Who is this?" I demanded, my voice a mix of anger and despair. "That's just it. The number doesn't trace back to anyone you know. It's registered under a fake name. But whoever it is, they've been in regular contact with Marla," Dave explained. The revelation felt like a physical blow. "What do I do with this, Dave?" "Confront her. That's your call. But be careful. You don't have enough here to prove an affair, just enough to raise questions." I nodded, my mind racing with possibilities. The drive home was a blur. I was consumed by thoughts of betrayal, of the life I thought I knew crumbling around me. I had to confront Marla, to hear her side of the story. But a part of me feared the answers that might come, knowing that they could shatter what little peace remained between us. That evening, as I sat across from Marla at our dinner table, the folder hidden under a pile of mail, I knew it was now or never. "Marla, we need to talk about something important." My voice was steady, belying the turmoil inside. She looked up, her face etched with concern. "What's wrong?" I slid the folder towards her. "I know there's someone else." Her eyes widened as she scanned the contents, her face draining of color. "This isn't what you think. Please, let me explain." But I was already rising from the table, the hurt and anger boiling over. "Save it, Marla. I've heard enough." I stormed out, leaving her with the open folder and a room filled with unspoken words. As I walked into the cool night, the first drops of rain began to fall, blurring the world around me as my resolve hardened. I would get to the bottom of this, no matter the cost. The next morning dawned gray and unwelcoming. My sleep had been restless, plagued by visions of deceit and whispered conversations in the dark. As I sat in the stark light of the kitchen, nursing a bitter cup of coffee, my phone buzzed. It was Dave. "Got a minute to talk?" his message read. I called him immediately, my fingers tapping impatiently on the countertop. "Listen, I did some digging overnight. you need to see what I've found. Can you meet? Dave's voice was urgent, laced with a seriousness that tightened my stomach. Give me 30 minutes. I'll be there. I met Dave at his office, a cramped space filled with monitors and files that seemed to spill from every surface. He didn't waste time on pleasantries. I went deeper into the phone records, pulled up some security footage from a bar near Marla's office. Look at this. He turned his monitor towards me, hitting play on a grainy video. The footage showed Marla sitting in a dimly lit bar, her posture tense. Across from her was a man I didn't recognize, his features obscured by shadows. They were talking, his hand occasionally reaching out to touch hers in a comforting gesture. That's him. The guy from the texts, Dave said, pointing at the screen. Did you get a name? I asked, my voice tight. Still working on that. But there's more. I tracked the guy's movements post-meeting. Guess where he went? Dave didn't wait for my answer. Straight to a fertility clinic. A chill ran down my spine. Are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything yet. But I think you should talk to Marla. There's a connection here we're not seeing. The ride home felt longer than usual, every traffic light and stop sign a barrier to the truth. When I finally arrived, I found Marla in the living room, a small suitcase at her feet. What's going on? I asked, noting the suitcase. I'm going to my sister's. I need some space to think. Her voice was calm, resigned. Marla, wait. There's something we need to discuss. I hesitated, then decided to plunge ahead. Who is he? The man from the bar, the one going to the fertility clinic. Marla froze, her hand on the suitcase. How do you know about that? Just tell me the truth, Marla. She sighed, sitting down slowly. His name is Tom. He's an old friend from college. We reconnected recently because he's been through something similar. Similar? I echoed, confused. He and his wife couldn't conceive. He went to a fertility clinic, found out he was the problem. He was trying to help me cope, give me advice on how to support you. I processed her words slowly, each one a hammer blow to my constructed narrative of betrayal. So, nothing happened between you two? Nothing, she affirmed, looking me in the eye. I was looking for support, someone who understood. I should have told you. The realization of my misjudgments, the unwarranted accusations, and the revenge I had plotted based on misinterpreted evidence crashed over me like a wave. Marla, She held up a hand. You chose to believe the worst of me. You've done things, said things that can't be taken back so easily. I swallowed hard, the magnitude of my actions, driven by jealousy and anger, finally dawning on me. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Can we fix this? Marla picked up her suitcase, her gaze softening, but her resolve firm. I don't know if we can. But I think we both need time to figure out what comes next. As she walked out the door, the finality of the moment settled around me. The quest for truth had revealed the depth of my misconceptions, and now I faced the possibility that my pursuit of revenge could cost me everything. In the silence that followed, I knew I had to find a way to make amends, not just for Marla, but for the person I needed to become. The weeks that followed Marla's departure were shrouded in a bitter solitude. Each day, the walls of our once shared home seemed to echo with the remnants of our broken trust. Despite the clarity her explanation had provided, the seed of betrayal, once sown, had germinated into a dark, vengeful growth that I could not excise. It was during one such evening, as I brooded over a glass of whiskey, that my phone lit up, a message from Dave, concise and chilling, found something big. Meet me now. The urgency in his words spurred me into action. At his office, Dave laid out the new evidence, a series of encrypted emails he had managed to intercept and decode. They revealed a sordid affair, not between Marla and Tom, but Tom and another. Yet, it was the mention of my name in those emails that turned my blood cold. Tom had been advising someone on how to siphon funds from a joint business venture I believed was secure, using the chaos of my personal life as a smokescreen. "This isn't just betrayal, it's embezzlement," Dave said, his voice grim. "He used your personal crisis as a cover." The revelation rekindled the smoldering embers of my wrath into a roaring inferno. "I want them both to pay, Dave. Not just for the betrayal, but for thinking they could manipulate me like this." Dave nodded, understanding the depth of my anger. "What do you want to do?" "Ruin them, socially, financially, completely." My voice was a hard whisper. Utilizing Dave's contacts and my resources, we crafted a meticulous plan. It involved leaking the affair and the embezzlement to the press, tipping off the IRS and the FBI, and ensuring that every mutual connection in our industry knew of Tom's duplicity. The fallout was catastrophic. Within weeks, Tom's reputation was shredded, his career in ruins. However, the final act of revenge was reserved for Marla. Despite her innocence in the financial schemes, the lingering suspicion, the ghost of her supposed betrayal, drove me to confront her one last time. I waited outside her new apartment, the early morning mist cloaking my bitter resolve. As she emerged, heading to her car, I stepped out, blocking her path. "Marla." My voice cut through the chill air. She stopped, her expression wary. "What are you doing here?" "I know everything. Not just about the clinic visits, but about Tom's schemes." Marla's confusion was apparent. "I don't understand." "I told you, Tom and I were just friends." "Friends don't drag each other into fraud," I snapped, throwing a dossier of evidence at her feet. "That wasn't me. I had nothing to do with this." Her denial was fervent, desperate. But the fury, once unleashed, cared little for truth or lies. "I don't care. You're a part of this, even if by association. You'll see what it's like to lose everything." I left her there, amidst the swirling mist, as I had planned to ensure her professional licenses were questioned due to her association with Tom. Her career, like mine once, teetered on the brink of destruction. In the weeks that followed, as I watched from a cold distance, Marla's life unraveled. Yet, with each report of her struggle, the hollow victory pierced me with a growing unease. Eventually, it was Dave who confronted me, his expression somber. "You've won, but at what cost? You've destroyed not just your enemies, but yourself." His words echoed in my empty home, in my hollow heart. The silence was a stark reminder of the cost of revenge, not just to its targets but to its wielder. In my quest for retribution, I had lost not only the woman I loved but also a part of myself I feared I would never recover. The deceit, once revealed, had indeed parted us forever, but the greatest betrayal was perhaps the one I had perpetrated against my own soul.